pleasure to be a part of this session, especially the last technical session, eighth session of today's conference. Um, so let's go straight away to the session. I think the first participant is K. Vinodini, a research scholar from Sri Sarada College for Women. And she's going to present a Freudian reading on Shashi Deshpande's characters in the country of deceit. Ms. K. Vinodini, are you here? K. Vinodini? I think she's not here. Okay. Shall we have Ajay Kumar, a research scholar from Amity School of University, Haryana?
Good evening, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ajay Kumar here.
Yeah, Mr. Ajay Kumar is going to present to us the portrayal of sea and mountain life in the works of Ernest Hemingway and Ruskin Bond, eco-critical analysis. Over to Ajay Kumar. Mr. Ajay Kumar will have the session as short as possible because we have participants. So make it short of 5 minutes, please. You can hand over to you.
Yeah. Right, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to the organizers and participants over here. Myself, Ajay Kumar from MIT University, Haryana, research scholar in English. My title of my paper is Portrayal of Sea and Mountain Life in the Works of Hemingway and Bond, an Eco-Critical Analysis. It has become inevitable to study text from ecological and environmental perspective, keeping in view the unprecedented growth and development with the advancement of science and technology. Literary critics are showing consciousness with respect to growing ecological crisis, risk to ecological balance, and many more anthropogenic factors adversely affecting the nature. Current study will try to evaluate portrayal of sea and mountain life in the selected works of Hemingway and Bond from eco-critical point of view. Research gap. Extensive review of literature revealed that no researcher has undertaken eco-critical study concerning portrayal of sea and mountain life in the works of Ernest Hemingway and Ruskin Bond. The research methodology, the theoretical tools of interdisciplinary eco-criticism were applied as the methodology for the study. It also included the components of an ecosystem, all identifiable entities or forms in the ecosphere like landscape, river, forest, and even species which question the very idea of anthropocentrism. Being purely a literary study, primary texts of Ruskin Bond and Ernest Hemingway were thoroughly studied, and secondary sources like research papers, research articles, audio or video interviews of authors, or on the works of authors were also collected meticulously for the purpose of this research. First of all comes the eco-critical analysis of Novella, The Old Man and the Sea, and other short stories by Ernest Hemingway. In The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, nature and setting plays an important role. In the novella, setting of the literary work is in the wilderness of sea and its surroundings, tides and waves of the sea, ocean currents, sea creatures including flora and fauna of sea. Hemingway have beautifully depicted the sea as a living organism and life inside the sea as the organs. He has shown love and respect for all creatures of sea. The dawn and the dusk, day and night, inside the sea and outside the sea, have been beautifully interpreted by Hemingway. While reading his masterpiece by Hemingway, one gets totally involved and submerged in the pictorial description of sea life by Hemingway. Next I come to the Ruskin Bond's works. One of the most astonishing characteristics of works of Bond is bringing a sense of love for ecology in a natural way. The richness of flora and fauna of Nainital, Dehradun, and Mussoorie in the foothills of outer Himalayas is the best example. In My Father's Trees in Dehra, author comes to his hometown after a long period of 20 years and finds that though there is enough change in cultural landscape, but natural landscape is still almost same with some minor changes in vegetation as most of the trees have been fallen down during the construction of roads, buildings, etc. His father also had special affection towards trees, and along with his father, he used to visit forests and take rest in the natural vegetation. Sometimes Ruskin Bond and his father used to discuss about the ways to stop deforestation. Being motherless boy, Ruskin Bond used to sit idle in the lap of Mother Nature and enjoy. After the death of his father, his attraction towards nature increased. Most of the poets and authors of his time were busy writing about social, political, and cultural aspects of literature, but Bond was consciously involved in writing for nature. It becomes important for the lover of nature to write intimately for the nature to attract attention of general public towards the conservation of nature and natural resources. With the help of protagonist in short stories, Ruskin Bond tells us about his visit to forests and plantation drives, which is the testimony of his love for nature. His association and upbringing in the hills imbibed natural essence in his blood and veins. For him, foothills of Himalayas are the symbol of belongingness. In his short story, like When You Can't Climb Trees Anymore, a job well done, and our trees still grow in Dehra, Ruskin and grand in his life. Dehra, Applewood, me, I would not expect tall cottage gardens escape
Mr.
you
Ranu
belong to
Kumar,
them.
your voice is breaking. We can't hear you, sir.
Hello,
Yes, sir,
Yeah, we
your
could hear
voice is
you now.
breaking.
Yeah.
am I audible? Should I continue?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Okay, ma'am. Ruskin Bond explains the characteristics of pets at his home and the response of family members. All the flora, fauna, and environment surrounding us are the essential parts of our environment, and everything have its significance for the maintenance of ecological balance. In a short story titled Binya Passes By, Ruskin Bond explains Picard's hillside landscape, its vegetation, and one shepherd girl, Binya. He falls in love with Binya and visits grazing lands where Binya comes to collect the grass and graze cow. She gives him fruit of some forest tree, which he eats happily. Ultimately, she disappears one day and never appears again. In a short story titled Death of the Trees, Ruskin Bond discusses about the ways trees and green vegetation is being disappearing very fast. Another tree I will miss is the young deodar, the only one growing in this stretch of the woods. Some years back, it was stunted from lack of sunlight. The oaks covered it with the shaggy branches, so I cut away some of the overhanging branches, and after that, the deodar grew much faster. It was just coming into its own this year. Now cut down its prime like my young brother on the road to Delhi last month. Both victims of the road, the tree killed by the PWD, my brother by truck. Ruskin Bond compares felling of trees with the death of his brother in a road accident. In this way, he considered tree as his family members. Moreover, views of his milkman and one neighbor are similar on the felling of trees. Another short story titled No Room for a Leopard depicts the cause of extinction of cat family export of skin of leopard by killing them. This short story serves as awareness for the conservation of leopard, which is otherwise on the verge of extinction. In the short story, The Cherry Tree, a child namely Rakesh digs field and sows seed of cherry. With the passage of time, seed grows and becomes a tree with leaves, flowers, and fruits. This short story gives moral lesson as well as inspiration to children to grow more and more trees. Since Ruskin Bond was an orphan, he chosen nature as his guardian and decided to live, write, think, and play in the lap of nature and admire nature. Unlike Wordsworth, Bond avoided too much theorization of nature, rather took it lightly. Future scope of the research. Current study tried to explore eco-critical aspects of select works of Ruskin Bond and Ernest Hemingway. Portrayal of social and cultural aspects of life in the works of Bond and Hemingway can be taken as further research. Conclusion. Man's dissociation from the natural world is the obvious cause of environmental crisis. Man is overconfident in conquering nature. Rising ecological consciousness in the masses as well as literary writings can lead to respect and sense of belongingness for nature. From the works of Ernest Hemingway and Ruskin Bond, it is evident that both the writers have written a lot about the ecological consciousness. Most of the works of Ernest Hemingway are based in and around oceans or seas, and on the contrary, most of the writings of Ruskin Bond are composed in the mountainous regions. Ernest Hemingway was fond of fishing, bullfighting, and equally ferocious writer of consciousness. With the help of short story, Fathers and Sons, Ernest Hemingway have portrayed the way human beings are destroying nature and nature resources and try to awaken consciousness among the society for conservation of nature and nature resources. Ruskin Bond, though an orphan and children writer, written a lot of works which have no comparison when it comes to rise sense of consciousness among the various strata of society. Both the authors have devoted their lives for the consciousness, and their efforts for conservation of immense. Thank you.
It was a wonderful presentation by the research scholar Arun Kumar. We could get a gist of your entire thesis, and it was a very good analysis of eco-criticism on Ernest Hemingway and Ruskin Bond. Congratulations, Arun Kumar. We just want you to go ahead with the same title even in your further studies of research. It is very interesting. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll
Thanks a
have
lot.
yeah. We'll have Vanmati, a research scholar on English language curriculum and textbook
Yes, ma'am.
development across the world. Yeah, Vanmati, you can go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are absolutely audible and
Ma'am,
visible.
am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible and visible
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well.
Thank you. Respected organizers, dear moderator, ma'am, dear paper presenters, and participants, a very good evening to one and all. To be a part of this international conference, and my topic English language curriculum and textbook development across the world. English is acclaimed as a global language. The language policies and design of English language curriculum differ widely across the world. A comparison of such English language curricula and textbooks would shed light on the process of curriculum development for the educationalist and the tries to find out the similarities, differences, and effectiveness of those diverse curricula. Language learning can happen either voluntarily or involuntarily. Volunteered language learning must follow certain plan and pattern at all stages of learning. Curriculum can be defined in a very simple way. As Baba says, curriculum is a plan for learning. It can also be defined in a comprehensive style. As Braslavsky says, the curriculum defines the educational foundation and contents. They are sequencing in relation to the amount of time available for learning experiences, the characteristics of the teaching institution, the characteristics of the learning experience, in particular from the point of view of methods to be used, resources of teaching and learning, evaluation, and teacher's profile. And we have Jack C. Richards, who illustrate three designs of curriculum: forward design, central design, and backward design. In the forward design, it starts from the objectives and formulating the syllabus methodology and finally coming to the assessment. And in the central design, the methodology is linked with all other components of the curriculum. In backward design, it starts with a careful statement of the outcome first, the result first, and then formulating the other components of the curriculum. So the key aspects of a curriculum are objectives, syllabus, textbook, method, evaluation, and result. Here, the textbook is the very visible and concrete component of the curriculum. The method and other things are derived based on the visible textbook. And now coming to the language policies and the place of English language in different countries. English was made the associate official language in the Constitution of India in 1950. This status was given to English for a period of 15 years and it continues even now because Hindi and other South Indian languages like Tamil are trying to replace the status of English. The National Language Policy for School Education, the three-language formula recommended by the National Commission on Education into the National Education Policies of 1968 and 1986. In some states like Tamil Nadu, two-language formula is used where the students can learn additionally Hindi, which is only optional. Meghanathan, a researcher, has found out that 75 different languages are used in India's educational system. And he also says that the National Curriculum Framework 2005 stresses the need for a multilingual education from the beginning of schooling, and English has its place in the scheme. And in Kenya, there are more than 40 indigenous languages. English and Kiswahili are the two official languages. In Kenya, the first 3 years of schooling, it is taught in the mother tongue or in any of the indigenous languages spoken there. And in the 4th year, English is introduced as the medium of instruction. This method is followed in US also in some schools. Many schools language learners, ELL, and they provide special support by teachers of English to speakers of other languages. In elementary schools, the ELL are typically pulled out of their regular and general education classrooms in small groups by the ESL teachers for specified period of time each day, so that they get additional exposure to the language of English. Some schools in the US follow bilingual educational program. And in China, the ELT curriculum changes from 1970s on, and then Weddell states that people across the education system are torn between classroom practices and behaviors promoted by the training and curriculum materials. Wisam Alamri argues that in Saudi Arabia, the notion of English through the culture of that language, no matter how many people in these cultures speak the target language, merits more advocacy and support from teachers and the community. In the words of Brown, a language is a part of a culture and culture is a part of a language. Al-Shamari states that English curriculum in Saudi Arabia adopts only the native speaker model based on American pronunciation, and so the student encountering other non-native varieties of English. Developing and applying EIL, that is English as an international language, practice in Saudi Arabia, as Al-Sharmi says that one of the many missions that Saudi Arabia must execute this. England follows a common national curriculum in education. Each key stages in this common national curriculum has aim, materials, and assessment methods according to the needs of the key stage. In addition, schools can introduce key stage content during an earlier key stage if appropriate. Autonomy is given. All schools are also required to set out their school curriculum for English on a year-by-year basis and make this information available online. In South Africa, the heads of education department committee is the main coordinating body for education. There are 14 curriculum committees for languages, including 11 official languages, modern and classical languages, and Eastern languages. The core curricula describes the aims and give a general indication of the scope of reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. The national curriculum statement was amended with the amendment coming into effect in January 2012. A single comprehensive curriculum and assessment policy document was developed. The teaching plans contain a list of language structures and conventions that should be covered in each. The listening and reading texts or select related to these texts that will enable learners to use these items in the communication. The curriculum is based on task-based approach. And here comes an analytical study on the English language curriculum and textbook development across the world. The professional organization for TESOL has established English language development standards for the special students, and one of the modern automated tools, that is Terra. The full form is Co-Metrics Common Core Text Ease and Readability Assessor. Terra simplifies the process of selecting text for the potential readers, says Soneshkina. And here, Soneshkina and few researchers evidence the lack of comprehensive approach applied to the authors of the Spotlight 11 to selecting texts in Russia. Currently in the US, there is a common set of standards adopted by 45 states, the Common Core State Standards, and this is followed from grade 1 to 12. The Kenyan approach to teaching English. In South Africa, the teaching learning materials followed by the prescribed language textbook, and in additional, folklore, short stories, novel, drama, magazine, and newspapers are also introduced. In 2018, the UN Secretary General formulated a committee to frame United Nations Language Framework. The purpose of the United Nations Language Framework is to leverage and mainstream multilingualism, a core value of the United Nations. And they say 4 levels of language competence: basic language. In Indian context, benefit learning in general and language learning in particular, but converting schools to become English medium without proper support would be detrimental and counterproductive. He also says a language across the curriculum perspective and a strategy of multilingualism, what NCERT 2005 suggests, would be benefitable. And I conclude that most of the curricula across the world are indeed built well. However, the applicability or availability of provisions should be taken care. Like learning never has an end, so the curriculum development and textbook development do. That the language needs of the learners vary from country to country, thus the curriculum should be updated frequently according to the learners' needs for better educational outcomes. I thank the organizers for the opportunity given, and I also be very happy to be the one of the presenters. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Anmati. As you rightly pointed out, the curriculum designing should be based on the learner's requirements, and it should be tailor-made according to the standards of every learner. You rightly said, and it's very interesting topic to hear about how the curriculums are designed across the global. Thank you, Anmati. All the best for your future research.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Next, we'll have Biansha RJ, the research scholar from Kanyakumari Nezamani Memorial Christian College, on Ojibwe's craving for traditional space. Is Mrs. Biansha is available? Yeah. Over to
Yeah,
you.
ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, you're
Good.
audible. You can continue.
Okay, ma'am. A warm greetings to everyone. I'm Biansha, research scholar in English, MS University. I'm here with my topic, Ojibwe's craving for traditional space. Karen Louis urged four souls. Karen Louis Erdrich is a Native American writer who is concerned with the struggles of the Ojibwe society. Her novels explore the history of the Ojibwe people, the richness of their language, and the consistent struggle for survival. Her fiction depicted the tragic development of the Ojibwe people with the resilient spirit of survival in North Dakota Reservation. America is incorporated by both Ojibwa and Western elements. Traditionally, the Ojibwa's ideology failed to agree with that of the Westerners. The whites' notion of a civilization rooted out the Ojibwa's existence from their nativeness. With presenting the Native Americans' difficulty for survival in an encroaching Western world, the paper explores the consequences after the introduction of agriculture, relocation, and the loss of the land by the Ojibwa's and warns the natives who lost their connections to land, family, culture, and language. By citing references from the novels of Karen Louise Erdrich, namely Four Souls, I have analyzed their craving for traditional space in three aspects. First, by voicing out their American worldview, and then what are the challenges they are faced by their Westerners' assimilation attempt, laws, introduction to agriculture, and then how they brought it themselves to preserve their nativeness. In the aspect of American Indian worldviews, the natives view their homeland as a place to define their being in the world, their intentions, beliefs, cultures, language, and values. They consider this a sacred land as the Mother Earth and treated it with due respect, as it provided them with safe survival on the earth. They give prior importance to the earth and its elements. According to their view, human beings are a part of the earth who live together with animals, plants, and all inanimate beings. For them, the land is not a dwelling place. Rather, it brings up relations with people, their identity, and their high emotional sacred commitments to the land. The Urchis considered all the creations of the earth with equality and insisted to live in with harmony. They are conscious to lead their life with harmony rather than to end their life with chaos. When the humans act against nature, they warned by the elders to tune back their lives in harmony. They never wished to use their lands to earn profits. In turn, they accepted what nature provided them and planned their lives by considering the cycles of nature. Its seasonal changes shaped their lives to carry out their work. They have found themselves to be dependent with nature for their needs, and nature to nourish them, guided them to live an easeful and meaningful life. For Americans, individualism created a space of isolation among the tribal community. For their own sake of progress, they started to dominate the tribal natives, obsessed by dispossessing their rights. By the enactment of new laws, they were forced to be terminated to genocide, military violence, biological and cultural assimilation. They were made to move involuntarily by the whites for centuries, and their families fight to retain their home from the cunning snare of the whites. In their view, the laws of the land erodes the native culture, their practices, and the people from them. They struggle very hard to find a solution for survival and preservation of culture and land. They were forced to create a new home in their unknown places without any connection with their people, community, and their past. They left their native lands in the hope of catching better opportunities, but rather their departure made them to be isolated from their communities, families, and cultures, and thereby to experience the drastic efforts due to their change. When they learn about their own homeland after the relocation, it draws admiration and hatred within them. It occurs due to the conflicting native and Western values placed upon land, community, and their people. At one instance, they are made to realize they are without place, identity, and security. Their idea of reconsumption of home finally met with a complete rejection of their heritage and community. The Americans' assimilation attempt introduced agriculture and individual ownership by imposing new laws. For them, the earth is a place to be owned for their own use, sold, or exploited. They consider the earth as a commodity from which they can achieve progress in life and use its soil and natural resources. Their introduction of the Jazz Allotment Act in the year 1887 targeted the Native American to be productive capitalists. This act launched to live as agriculturalists, but by its individual allotment policy. The Upchis was against agriculture since they consider plowing in their sacred land as an act of killing. They gave high respect to the land and believed that it related human beings with the cosmos. Because of that, the agricultural experiments were opposed by the natives and their traditional Upchi beliefs were reasserted by them. They violently killed the Indian farmers, their cattle, they looted their food and supplies. Erdish embellishes her character, fair pleasure, within this framework. She belonged to the Bear clan, who is referred to as the chiefs and warriors of their tribe. Erdish exhibits flair as a warrior in comparison to the city leaders who try to get back their land. Though this act doesn't succeed in making Native Americans as Indian farmers, rather created a new market-oriented economy which is centered on ownership and money. The Native Americans involved in the market economy for trade for the need of liquor and other articles. Without their knowledge, individualism is driven into them. They have turned out to services to the whites. This brings the basic difference between the tribal people, whether to adapt themselves as natives or adapt the market economy of Americans. It brought out the identity crisis and the fragmentation between the traditionalist and the non-traditionalist, and among the mixed bloods as well as the full-blood Indians. It destroyed the natives' relationship with the land and thereby resulted in conflicts within the community. This discordant community is the outcome of the implementation of an economic structure which was alien to them. So the new economy faced issues of survival, forced adaptation, and created disagreement with the traditional natives. So hereby, I wish to conclude by saying that the Ojibwa clan are they are inseparable from their geographical locations but connected with their place, object, culture, and traditions. By having their own identities in their land, they live near to nature with better understandings with humans. American Indian valued space more than anything because their connection to the land brings out their culture, identity, religion, and tradition as well. Due to this devoted relationship between their people as well as their land, their spatial worldview cannot be undervalued. Erdős emphasized the fact that people may fail when they are alone and away from their communities, but she leaves her readers with hope that the natives must renew their life with their lost nativeness in aspects of culture, tradition, family, and identity. Thank you.
Yeah, Biasha, it was a wonderful analysis of Ojibin's craving for traditional space. And we can find the similar craving even in Indians, those who are settled in foreign countries. They always want to come back to their culture, and they always crave for the remaining in one among the nature and their uh, mother earth, especially in their own mother country. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Now we'll have the next paper presenter, Ms. Sabita, research scholar from SRM Institute, and who's going to present on the dialogic analysis on action thriller, The Endgame by Hussein Zaidi. Sabita, are you here?
Good
Sabita?
evening, ma'am. Do you able to hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
Good evening,
you're
ma'am.
audible. Yeah, you're audible. Your session is
Yes,
yours.
yes, thank you. Okay. I just want to present the screen to you. Ma'am, is that visible? Is that visible to all?
Yeah, it's visible, visible.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good evening, everyone. I'm Sabita, research scholar, SRM IST Katankulur, under the guidance of Dr. Suganya Saka. Here, my presentation topic is a dialogic analysis on action thriller, The End Game by the Anxiety. And these are the objectives of my study. When we think about the thriller plots, naturally our concentration and our focus falls on how the plot was constructed, or else how the suspense and mystery was created in the plot by using different narrative techniques like foreshadowing or else red herring likewise. every time the dialogue is an important tool, but it was considered to be an insignificant element in thriller plot construction. So my paper focuses on the contribution of dialogues in thriller plot. The objective would be the paper attempts to explore the contribution of dialogues in the thriller plot. The End Game by Hussein Saidi, and dialogue as a powerful acceleration tool raises the narration speed, creates suspense, and moves the plot forward. Dialogue creates performs so many functions actually. It provides the first-hand experience to the readers. It can tell it can narrate the setting or a theme of the story. So what is happening inside the character's mind, the real nature of the characters, all these information are revealed to the readers. The primary source is The End Game by Hussein Saidi. He is an investigative journalist. This novel, Endgame, is the last novel in the trilogy. He has written 3 novels. This is the last book. This this is a thriller plot which opens with the bomb blast, which kills the important political person, Director General Somesh Kumar, and then it leads to the investigation of the particular bomb blast, and naturally leads to the resolution of this case. And the other important thing about this book is all these 3 books, this trilogy has written with the base of 2008 Mumbai attack, also known to be 26 by 11 Mumbai attack. Mm, During that, 9 prime locations were attacked by the Pakistani terrorists. So this is a theoretical framework. In order to prove that dialogue is also an important tool in constructing a thriller plot, I should have a solid source to place my argument forward to you. So I have adopted a book, Write Great Fictions Dialogue, which was written by Gloria Kempton. So in the book, she has put forward so many ideas and positive ideas towards dialogue, and especially she talks about how it creates suspense and mystery. How 3 elements, 3 important elements like dialogue, action, narration, all these three, if all these 3 elements are incorporated or merged in balanced manner, it can provide 3-dimensional feel to the reader. So that is what her argument. Having this as this secondary source as a support for my argument, I have written the paper. She has advocated so many different kinds of dialogue for a different kind of genres, like magical, descriptive. But as my novel is a thriller novel, I have adopted only 2, which is suitable for me: Shadowy and Breathless Dialogue. When we talk about what is shadowy dialogue? What does it? What kind of act it performs in the novel? So it provides a kind of a clue. When we read those dialogues, it's a kind of clue about the impending danger to the character, that our readers will naturally understand that something bad is going to happen to the character. It creates suspense, okay, or something bad, what is going to happen. So it's a kind of suspense. At the same time, what is going to happen, the mystery. It also provides 2 kind of feeling to the reader, that is suspense and also the mystery. We can call it as a foreshadowing technique also. It acts as a foreshadowing technique because it is giving a hint about what is going to happen in the future of the plot. Okay, in order to explain this, I have taken an example. In the novel, the young girl, Muslim girl, she was kidnapped by the terrorist. So the blood, Malcolm said. Vikrant nodded and snipped his drink. So this entire dialogue, through the entire dialogue, we get the clue that the blood belongs to Rahmat, that young girl. So what happened to her? She is not there. She was kidnapped by the terrorist. So it acts as a clue. This shadowy dialogue acts as a clue to create suspense and mystery, and it creates what is going to happen to Rahmat. Anything might happen to her. She is in the hands of the terrorists. So this is the this is the role performed by shadowy dialogue in the plot. And same way we have a breathless dialogue. This means it's like a cliffhanger. It will create a cliffhanger feeling to the reader that you cannot put your books down. It is unputdownable at times because of this breathless dialogue. Why? Because it describes the fatal situation for the character. It is that might be at the um, extremely risky situation. So already we have discussed that the young girl, she was kidnapped by the terrorists. So through this line, we will get to know that what happened to her. The last few lines I just want to read to you. Um, Without warning, I whipped out an automatic pistol, turned partially, and shot Rahmat through the heart. Punishment, I said. So this is the breathless dialogue. We will be imagine what sort of paragraphs will be there, or else dialogues will be there prior to this. So the entire situation, the readers will be anticipating what is going to happen to Rahmat, and ultimately, at last, it is highly pathetic for Rahmat that she is shot dead. So breathless dialogue creates a dangerous situation. So it is used to describe the dangerous situation for the characters. And this dialogue, action, and narration. Gloria Kempton also talked about these three elements, how it should be used in the action thriller. So without using any one, or if you are deleting any one of these aspects, it will be completely incomplete to provide the three-dimensional experience to the readers. Either the dialogue and narration should be incorporated in a balanced manner so that in the action thriller, whatever action which was described, that will be pop up in a proper manner. So, according to Gloria Kempton, she advocates that all these three elements should be balancedly brought out by the author to be successful thriller. So, to what I try to encapsulate ultimately, the dialogue is an important tool. It can perform various important acts in a particular plot, especially thriller plot. We have a different kind of dialogues, either to increase the suspense or else to increase the speed. When we think about the literary novel and commercial novel are not same. So these comes under thriller, comes under commercial novel. It will be fast-paced novels. So the dialogue will not be elaborate, or else much description will not be there. So dialogues will be crisp and short, and it decides the pace of the story. That is the pace of the plot. So it is the important tool. According to the analysis, what is done, it is very clearly inferred. It is an important tool. It can provide suspense and mystery to the readers. At the same time, it also performs the other activities like propelling the adequate information to the reader. It can act as a suspense tool also. So finally, overall, the importance of dialogue in the thriller novel is brought to the spotlight. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for presenting the important technical aspect of in game and also the importance of the narrative dialogues. Thank you, Savita.
Hello, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, myself Vinodni, ma'am. Actually, I was present when you called my name, ma'am. I had
Okay.
mic problem, so I couldn't respond you.
Okay.
When shall I present my paper, ma'am?
Yeah. Let's. Will after Sita is here. Sita.
Yes, ma'am. Sita
Yeah.
is here.
So after Sita could present, Vinodini, you can take over the session.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So now we'll have Sita, Ms. F. Sita, MPhil scholar from Hindu College, and she is going to present about the narrative technique employed in Chetan Bhagat's One Indian Girl.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I?
Yeah, you can start.
Good evening to everyone. This is Sita, research scholar from ST Hindu College, Nagarkovil. I'm here with my topic, narrative techniques employed in Chetan Bhagat's One Indian Girl. Here, Chetan Bhagat is a distinguished Indian author, a prolific writer, a noted columnist, a well-known screenwriter, and a motivational speaker, renowned for his English novels about young urban middle-class Indians. His common themes are hopes and despair, smiles and tears, fears and cheers, happiness and sorrow, ambition and tribulation, love and separation of youth of New India. Chetan's style of writing is simple, lucid, and vivid with graphic descriptions and linear narratives. With his vigorous and humorous way of depiction stories, he has encouraged the habit of reading in many young Indians. According to Chetan Bhagat, novels are perfect devices for both inspiration and entertainment, and through which he discriminates his views and opinions about society and youth. Chetan's unique skill is his ability to make frank variety of social concerns. Of course, A.R. Rahman, a well-known music legend, praises Chetan Bhagat's narrative style, and in Time magazine quotes, many writers are successful at expressing what's in their hearts or articulating a particular point of view. Chetan Bhagat's books do both and more. Chetan's One Indian Girl is currently being researched, and the narrative techniques used in this work are being considered. In his novel One Indian Girl, he uses analysis. As the story of One Indian Girl begins 4 years ago, when Radhika Mehta started her professional training at Goldman Sachs. After obtaining the recommendation from a co-worker, she applies to the distress debt department. Her hectic career quickly puts her personal life and relationship with Debu in danger. The story is narrated from the first person point of view by the protagonist of this novel, Radhika Mehta. She remembers what happened on the day of the wedding and tells the narrator how she convinced her mother when she became upset with the shortage of rooms in the hotel they booked for their wedding celebration. He quotes like, "Mom, go sit with dad, please. I will sort this out." She said, "Mom glad at me. How could I, the bride, do all this in the first place? I should be worried about my facials, not room allocations." This is one occasion where the author has employed analysis. The analysis is employed in another occasion where Radhika tells her readers about how her family and the bridegroom, Arjit's family, stayed in the hotel with limited rooms one day before the day of her wedding. The two women spent the next 20 minutes sorting the extended Mehta family of 117 individuals into 30 rooms. They employed a complicated algorithm that include factors such as persons sharing the room should not detest or to be attached to each other. Children were cramped into five persons room, often with a grandfather. Her father provided his bed instead of sleeping on the floor after Kamala Bua, a widow, offered to sleep on the floor in her parents' room. Of course, Arjit continued promising that extra beds will be added to the room. Analysis is frequently referred to as flashbacks in general. Analysis, often known as a flashback, occurs when a character recalls a prior event that occurred before the current point in the story. According to Cheris Baldic, analysis is a form by which some of the events of a story are related at the point in the narrative after later story events have already been recounted. It is commonly referred to as a retrospection or flashback. Analysis enables the storyteller to fill the background information about characters and events. Chetan used plot twists in this novel One Indian Girl. The book Literary Devices, Definition and Examples of Literary Terms defines plot twists as the plot twist is an unexpected development in the literary work or film. The term plot twist comprises a combination of two words, plot, which is an autonomous term with twist having separate meanings. Yet, it is not a compound word. In literature, however, it means a technique that brings a sea change in the plot away that it entirely turns to the opposite direction from the expected direction that it seems to take. Although such twists are quite common, sometimes a twist occurs just at the end of the story and takes sharp turn. This is where it surprises the reader, causing an immediate response from in the shape of fear, happiness, or laughter. This new conflict sometimes it just ends, while at the other times it becomes quite linear. Some other techniques that support plot twists or flashbacks, cliffhangers, red herrings, and reverse chronologically. The plot twist occurs in the novel when Radhika's partner, Debu, is unable to accept her rising income and professional achievement. He is self conscious. He thinks he is not as good as Radhika. He cannot stand having a wife that is both intellectually equal and outperformance him. As the following exchange reveals, how Radhika tries to mend fences with him. However, all these attempts fail miserably, and Radhika falls prey to sentimentality. He quotes like, "What are you taking about, Debu? Didn't you say women could achieve anything today? Didn't you encourage me when I had to apply for distressed debt? I did. I admire you. I respect all women who achieve big things. I think it's great, but you cannot be with them." To forget Debu, Radhika quits the job and joins another company where she falls in love with a married man by the name of Neil Gupta, who is 20 years senior to Radhika. This is another twist in the novel. The following lines reveal Radhika's affair with Neil Gupta. "What do you want, Radhika?" Neil said. I kept silent. "A future. I am 20 years older," he said. "So you said age doesn't matter in love, didn't you? I'm married, I have kids, so much baggage." "Exactly. So what I am doing with you? Aren't you happy with just what we have?" Neil said. He seemed to be genuinely confused. Would you, if you were in my place?" I asked, looking him squarely in the eye. "We have our work, we have love, we have excited, we have a friendship. We don't have a predictability and mentality of a married couple. You make marriage sound so bad. You are married." Like so. Finally, the researcher proves the novel to be a Bildungsroman. The Bildungsroman is a fiction genre that depicts a young protagonist's journey from childhood to adulthood, with a focus of the hardships and tribulations that affect his or her development. The term Bildungsroman is derived from the German word Bildung, which means formation, and the Roman, which means novel. Because of its German roots, the word Bildungsroman is usually capitalized. Uh, the novel taken for study can be taken as a Bildungsroman, as the novel deals with the moral and psychological development of the protagonist Radhika Mehta. It is evident through the following lines. "Hi, I am Radhika Mehta and I am getting married this week. I work at Goldman Sachs, an investment bank. Thank you for reading my story. However, let me warn you, you may not like me too much. One, I make a lot of money. Two, I have an opinion on everything. Three, I had a boyfriend before. Okay, maybe two. And now I was a guy. Now, if I was a guy, would you be okay with all of this?" But a building Stroman as a novel centers around the moral and psychological development of the protagonist Radhika Mehta. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation on Chetan Bhagat's narrative style in One Indian Girl. And the quotes that you have given has taken us to the exact novel and made us to feel the thank you for presenting on the dialogic analysis. I'm sorry, the Chetan Bhagat's novel. And then now, the
Thank you,
narrative
ma'am.
technique, Sita. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Now we'll have the presenter, Miss K. Vinodini from Salem College, a Freudian reading of select characters in Sashi Deshpande's Country of Deceit. Over to Vinodini, the last presenter of this session.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to one and all present here. My article titled A Freudian Reading of the Select Characters in Sashidesh Pandey's In the Country of Deceit uses the psychoanalytical concepts proposed by Freud and Anna Freud to analyze the select characters Ashok and Devyani from the novel. According to Freud, the human psyche is made up of three components. They are it, ego, and superego. It is the area of instincts, dreams, and desires. Superego is the conscience, whereas ego meditates between the unconscious it and the superego. Added to these components of the human psyche, Freud also proposed a concept called defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are the psychological techniques that help people in detaching themselves from threats or unpleasant sensations like guilt or shame. Defense mechanisms are based on psychoanalytic theory, which views personality as the interaction of three components such as it, ego, and superego. Sigmund Freud is the first to suggest this idea. He is of the idea that defense mechanisms are not under a person's conscious control. The majority of individuals use them without even recognizing them. Many have developed the concept of defense mechanism, and here in my article, I have used the concept proposed by Anna Freud. Anna Freud, in her book The Ego and the Defense Mechanisms of Defense, describes the different types of defense mechanisms. Some of them are denial, repression, rejection, displacement, regression, sublimation, rationalization, reaction formation, introjection, and identification. I would like to highlight one incident from the novel to understand these concepts. In the novel In the Country of Deceit, Ashok Chinnappa, a married man driven by his it, proposes to the spinster named Devyani Mudol. Later, when he returns home, his superego dictates to him the fact that what he does is wrong. So, in this situation, the ego uses the defense mechanism to get out from anxiety. Here, he employs the defense mechanism called projection. According to Anna Freud, projection is the tendency to see your own unacceptable desires in other people. So when he gets transferred, he blames Devyani with the words, I quote, say it, Devyani, say it, damn your honesty, say we will meet again. You don't care, you don't give a damn, I unquote. In this situation, Ashok employs the defense mechanism called projection to escape from the unpleasant feeling. In the same way, Devyani, driven by her it, falls for Ashok and spends time with him. When her sister questions her relationship with Ashok, her ego uses the defense mechanism called rationalization. Rationalization is nothing but a defense mechanism which involves a cognitive distortion of the facts to make an event or an impulse less threatening. In the same way, in the act of convincing her sister, Devyani convinces herself with the words as follows. I quote, you know nothing of our relationship. You think only of the sex, but there is so much more. We talk, we laugh. I can say things to him which I have never said to anyone. He listens to me the way no one has listened to me before, making each word of mine a precious jewel. I don't know how many couples get this, but for me, I never expected this complete sharing of everything. It's like a miracle. I unquote. So finally, after quoting this incident, I would like to conclude with the words that the key to a healthy personality is a balance between the it, ego, and the superego. A healthy personality occurs when the ego is able to effectively mediate between it and superego. A misalignment of these factors would result in a more adaptive personality. A person with a strong it may strive to satisfy his desire without considering the consequences of their actions. In the same way, a person with a dominating superego will turn out to be a moralistic person who will feel difficult to accept anything that is immoral. Human life is always a battle between the desires and the reality. Ashok and Devyani are not an exception. From the psychoanalytical reading of Devyani and Ashok, it is found that both the characters are driven by their id in the beginning of the novel, but at the end of the novel, both are dominated by the superego due to which they get separated. Thank you.
Yeah, Vinodni, it's a wonderful presentation of a Freudian perspective of Satish Deshpande's novel, and it is a new focus on the Shashi Deshpande's novel. I wish you could successfully complete this topic and your research, and I want you to publish the same as a book because it's a different perspective of the well-known writer. And
Yes,
thank you
ma'am. Yes,
for
ma'am.
giving us a different analysis of Shashi Deshpande. It was very interesting.
Thank you so
Okay,
much, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
yeah. Thank you for making this session a successful one. I can find out that each participant has their own unique style of research and many new topics are blooming out from the budding research scholars of Nook and the Corner of India. Thank you for presenting yourself in this international conference, and thank you the organizers and Dr. Regent Silvest for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this conference.